Fredericksburg community. Welcome to our second community town hall. I am Andrea Bunbury, the Director of Elementary Education and one of your facilitators for this evening. Today's town hall will include administrators from our preschool programs, Hugh Mercer Elementary, Lafayette Upper Elementary, Walker Grant Middle School, and James Monroe High School. On behalf of our school board, Superintendent Dr. Catlett, all school administrators and staff, I would like to thank you for your continued support and patience as we work together to provide quality education services for our children. At this time, we will have my co-facilitator and school administrators introduce themselves.
Good evening. I'm Sonia Walsh, the Director of Secondary Education, and I will be the other facilitator of tonight's town hall.
Good evening. My name is Laura Dove. I'm the Supervisor of Preschool Programs.
Good evening. Before I introduce myself, I'm going to introduce our principal, Dr. Kimberly Doucette, and unfortunately, she cannot be with us this evening due to a conflict. I am Keisha Fry, one of the assistant principals at Hugh Mercer Elementary School.
Good evening. My name is Tony Richard. I'm one of the other assistant principals at Hugh Mercer Elementary School.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Wheeler, and I'm the principal at Lafayette Upper Elementary School.
Good evening. My name is Pam Diggs, and I'm one of the assistant principals at Lafayette Upper Elementary School.
Good evening. I'm PJ Slimsky, the other assistant principal at Lafayette, and I have the wonderful pleasure of working with Mrs. Wheeler and Mrs. Diggs.
Good evening. My name is Angela Hendricks, and I'm the principal of Walker Grant Middle School.
Good evening. I'm Keisha Keels, and I'm one of the assistant principals here at Walker Grant Middle School.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Ventura, the other assistant principal at Walker Grant.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Duffy, principal at James Monroe High School. And I want to take this time to let you know we have a new assistant principal at James Monroe High School, Mrs. Glass, and she will be starting on January 19th.
And good evening, I'm Jay Snyder, also an assistant principal at James Monroe High School.
Thank you for those introductions. Now we'll begin with question number 1. In the first quarter, my child has no absences. This second quarter, if he doesn't have the need to attend Zoom meetings, he is marked absent. Though if he attends homeroom Zoom, he's not marked absent. When I view Power School, he has 22 absences, though he is an A student. Is there any way to correct this system? Does not make sense to me. Ms. Hendricks, could you help us with that?
I'd be happy to. For second semester, we have changed the attendance plans to include attendance at all virtual class meetings. This is even more important this semester as we shift our focus to synchronous learning and have created what we call skinny laps and not as much emphasis on the material being in the modules in Canvas. So the absences are not punitive. There is no attendance failure. In this particular case, I certainly would ask that you get more clarification from the school if you need more questions answered, and we'll be happy to assist you.
Thank you, Ms. Hendricks. Question number 2. When the kids go back to school in January, what will the schedule look like? I realize it is only one day, but what will their schedule be like? Ms. Keels?
All of the information pertaining to the school schedules are located on each of the school's websites. If you look on the school's website, scroll to where it says blended learning, that's almost down in the middle of the page. Just click on that tab and you'll be able to find all of the information there about the schedules.
Thank you. Question number 3. I've noticed that the mobile cafe no longer drops off breakfast/lunch on Morningside Drive. We were not notified of any changes in the schedule and found out after my children waited around for up to 2 hours for the truck to arrive a couple of days in a row. I called Lafayette Upper Elementary to find out that Morningside Drive was removed from the updated drop-off list altogether. I've made subsequent calls to the school nutrition department and left messages, but haven't been contacted back with further information. I would like to know how the kids are supposed to get breakfast/lunch now that Morningside Drive has been removed from the mobile cafe drop-off list. Ms. Wheeler?
Yes, I'm happy to help with that. Thank you for bringing this concern to our attention. And I will personally be reaching out to food services this week, and I will follow up with you personally by Friday so that we can try to get this solved.
Thank you. Question number 4. When will JM start a JROTC program for our kids? All of the surrounding county schools have involvement in this type of program. Dr. Duffy, can you help us with that?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Brumbury. I'm glad this question came up. I do have a team of staff members who is working on this, researching the process involved in bringing that into the school. We have looked into the application process, and they differ a little bit depending on which program we end up going with. We have visited the facilities of schools and how they make it work. And we've reviewed, as I said, the application process. The next step really for us is to get a broader range of stakeholders on our team, our committee, to look at both ways that we can educate our school community about the value of bringing that to the school. And so we look to be holding sessions to educate our community about it, and then hopefully drum up interest on it and take surveys on student interest in becoming a part of JROTC. It is a great program and offers a great, obviously, training for students as well as preparation for careers. So we are very interested in this, and I'm grateful that you brought this up. So look for more information about our JROTC committee meetings this semester.
Thank you, Dr. Duffy. Question number 5. What is the FCPS system doing to increase our school ratings so we are more in line with the surrounding school districts? James Monroe High School currently stands out with the lowest score. Dr. Duffy, could you also help us with this question?
I'm glad to, Dr. Bunbury. This is an interesting question for us. As many of you may know, a lot of area companies and associations like realtors will often refer their patrons to commercial websites like Great Schools or Rate Your Teacher. There are things like that that give ratings to schools that are based mainly on a kind of social media approach. You know, they're based on the input that the public, you know, puts into their ratings. So a lot of these ratings are pretty arbitrary because they're based on the number of ratings that people have put in, and they're based on impressions. So what I would encourage everyone to do is to really, if you want to see how JM rates and other schools, you should look at the school quality profile. And those are available on the Virginia Department of Education webpage. So if you search for school quality profile and enter the name of any school, you should be able to find that pretty easily. And you can see areas of strength and weakness that schools have. You'll see that James Monroe High School is fully accredited, as are all city schools. And you will, I was going to add one other thing. Well, I would say that, you know, that is the highest ranking and the most important one that a school can have. You know, I do want to add, however, that we do deeply care about the reputation of our school. And And we do focus our efforts to meet the standards that the state puts out for us. And those school quality profiles are determined by very specific data that the state collects. And so we focus on that elements of the school quality profile every day. What we can do to improve attendance, graduation rate, grades, test scores, school culture. Those are things that we focus on every day. And hopefully as we focus on those things that really are truly measurable and data-based, those will reflect in the more kind of informal social media-like ways of rating our school. So I hope that answers the question. And believe me, we are tireless in pursuit of excellence at Jameson Rural High School. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Duffy, for that information. We greatly appreciate it. Question number 6. On our questions, our listing of questions for the community town hall, there were several people who had questions regarding the return to school and safety plans. So what we're going to ask is that Ms. Hendricks would please expand on those school plans regarding the 2 topics of return to school and safety plan.
Thank you, Dr. Bumbry. We certainly understand and respect all concern about health and safety as we move towards our return to school. As parents and guardians, you always have the right to keep your students at home if you are concerned about safety. As a school division, we are 100% committed to creating a safe learning environment for both our students and our staff. And as always, the safety of our students and staff will remain our first priority.
Thank you. Now we'll move to question number 7. I'd like to extend my gratitude to the teachers and support staff at Hugh Mercer Elementary School, who have been working above and beyond to ensure that students remain active and learning during this challenging time. Our teachers are incredibly dedicated to the well-being of the students in our city, and I appreciate that many are foregoing seeing their own families so that they can be in a school building with our most vulnerable students. I'd also like to thank the school board for their efforts to keep our students safe at home. With the test positivity rate continuing to increase in our region, I'm glad that we don't have to worry about our classrooms turning into super spreader events. I appreciate all of the efforts the board, in conjunction with the building staff, have made to ensure that students have devices and internet service while they aren't physically able to be in the school building. I hope that moving forward, post-pandemic, Fredericksburg schools will continue to provide devices to all students and internet service to all families who need it. As the school board looks to beginning a hybrid model, I was hoping that you could speak to the state of the ventilation systems in our city schools. My son would be returning to a kindergarten classroom at Hugh Mercer that does not have windows to the outside. Evidence supports that SARS-CoV-2 is primarily transmitted through droplets and aerosols, and insufficient ventilation and airflow can increase the risk of exposure to the virus. Aside from masks and distancing, what will the schools be doing to mitigate this airborne risk? I appreciate your transparency with the city schools COVID-19 dashboard. Is the dashboard dependent on families and teachers self-reporting positive cases? As students return to the classroom, does the school system have a randomized testing plan in place to monitor the test positivity rate within each school? How will the school system respond to a positive case for a teacher or student? Will schools conduct contact tracing? Will substitutes be moved around so buildings around school buildings and also within school buildings? And let me just repeat that question. Will substitutes be moved around school buildings and also within school buildings, or will they be assigned to a small cohort of teachers within a school? Thank you again for all that you are doing to make this difficult year run smoothly. Mr. Wishart, are you able to help us with that question?
Yes, Dr. Bumry, thank you. I know this question was directed at Hugh Mercer, but I do want to take the time to highlight that Dr. Everhart and all the school administrators perform routine building walkthroughs to monitor cleanliness, as well as air quality control. Specifically here at Hugh Mercer, and I have the results here sitting on my desk. There was numerous test results sitting in different classrooms throughout the building, and all those test results came back, and I quote, better than hospital grade. In other words, our buildings and air quality are safe for students and staff. To address the concerns with the substitutes being moved around, that is the goal, to keep our distance, wear the masks, and keep them in a smaller cohort.
Thanks, Mr. Wishart. Question number 8. Would it be possible for there to be more consistent communication regarding school policies and events via email? Phone messages and text alerts are not as easy to keep track of as emails. Mr. Snyder, could you help our families with that question?
Sure thing, Dr. Bumry, thank you. So first off, we really appreciate any feedback we get on how we can improve our communication. That is a high priority for us as a school division, is to further improve our communication with families and our community. So in email specifically, yes, we are adding on record emails that we have for parents to our school messenger, so that when we do send out those calls, email version is also sent to the emails on record. So we're starting with that. The next plan is to develop a list server, which would allow for school administrators to then send out mass emails to the people on that list server. And what it would do is, once we are able to create that, parents would be able to sign up for that service or that list. And then when those emails are created, they would get one.
Thank you. Hi. I'm sorry, question number 9. Let me stop. And I'll start again. Question number 9. Hi, I am a student that goes to Walker Grant Middle School. I heard about synchronous and I didn't think it was a bad idea. I just think you could have given kids a choice. So like the students that need extra help or are behind might need it, but what about the students that are fine working on their own and are ahead? Synchronous is good for like half the students. So what am I asking you is if you can give kids a choice if they want to do synchronous learning. Mr. Ventura.
I'd be happy to take that question. Let me start by first sending a special thank you to our student who was being an active participant in their own education and advocating for your own needs and other students' needs. That's very positive. But I will want to indicate to the student that based on the feedback that we did receive from the community in survey form, the division has decided to go more to a blended learning model, which includes students the opportunity to attend their synchronous classes in a live session with the combination of asynchronously as well. However, if you or any of your other peers, are experiencing some difficulty with some of their classes, we do encourage students to reach out to the teachers and work with them on that Wednesday timeframe and get some extra support if needed. So thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Mr. Ventura. Question number 10. Hi all, thank you so much for taking time to answer questions and for being so responsive. My kids will be continuing with virtual regardless of the options available, so many of my questions are around that topic. For Hugh Mercer Elementary School, grades K through 2 only, will the school consider pairing students who are fully virtual with virtual teachers, similar to Spotsylvania County Schools, so they can have more or longer synchronous learning during the day? Live instruction works better than check-ins for this young age, where the kids are all over the place in terms of reading and math levels. This will also allow students to have a more direct relationship with their teacher, and allow teachers who have students coming in person to be able to focus on them instead of splitting their time. As hard as this would be for some children to change teachers, I think it would make life easier all around. Regarding lose, I think with the older kids, the modules are working well, and the 4th grade team in particular has done an outstanding job making really creative and interesting videos. However, I would love to see more synchronous learning time. Is that being considered? Ms. Fry, can you help us with that question, please?
Certainly, Dr. Mummery. At this time, there are a few reasons why that is not feasible. We did look at that. And unfortunately, we are not able to do that. The children were looped up with their classmates, and we looking at social emotional time and keeping their classmates and friends together, because we had to shorten the time frame last year. We also have started reading and math groups as of today. So the kids will be doing the synchronized learning this starting today. And we also will be looking at live special area times with reading, with with PE, health, music, and art times. So that will be also coming in starting on the 19th. Ms. Diggs, you want to take on the lose?
I certainly will. Thank you, Ms. Fry. And I would first like to say that we certainly appreciate the question, and thank you for recognizing the efforts of our 4th grade instructional team. And actually, all of our teachers are just doing an outstanding job. At this time, we have adjusted our instructional day to reflect and emphasize those synchronous teaching and learning opportunities. We will be expanding those sessions to include small group remediation sessions, as well as special area instruction and enrichment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fry and Ms. Diggs, for helping us with question number 10. Now we'll move on to question number 11. Thank you for accepting my 2 questions. My first question is, if not already addressed during this town hall, can you let the public know about the school's plans to expand synchronous learning offerings for students at all grade levels? The second question is, can you let us know if there is a way for our ELL families to contact the schools, such as the Family Resource Access Hotline used in Stafford? Thank you again, and stay safe and well. Ms. Dove, are you able to assist us with this question?
Of course, thank you. So the first question, Ms. Fry and Ms. Diggs was able to answer for us, so I'll answer the second one. We always encourage families to reach out to their school and speak with them. We prefer that personal connection, and we can add in the language line to communicate with all of our families and try to reach all of our student and family needs that way. So we prefer that. So always please reach out to your school so that we can communicate with you.
Thank you, Ms. Dove. Question number 12. Can someone explain in detail why Fredericksburg City Schools landed on bringing back students for such shortened school days? I completely understand the zones for attendance, decreasing the amount of kids in school at one time, and transportation issues due to social distancing. What went into making the decision to have elementary kids attending school from 8 to 11:30? It seems somewhat pointless for them to even attend 1 day a week for 3.5 hours of in-person learning. Why not maximize the fact that transportation got them in the building and keep them for a full day or nearly a full day? Why are we looking to increase the middle and high school students in person before elementary school? Doesn't that go against what the governor recommended by focusing on K-3? When will my child's in-person learning instruction increase? By how much? What increment? Who determines that increase, and how often will that be assessed? What metrics is the city using to make these decisions? Has the city set standards based off of the information provided by the health district to follow? Will school days get longer than the 8 to 11:30 a.m. timeframe established for January? If I originally stated that I will drive my child to school and then want to change bus transportation when school days do increase, is that possible? How are the standards of learning being met for science and social studies? My child received grades in these areas, but doesn't currently do work in these subjects. The only subjects my child submits work in is in math and reading. Ms. Wheeler, would you start and help us with number 12, please?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Walsh. So in regards to the first two parts to this question, I'm going to combine my response for those. We are excited to offer 2 days a week of instruction versus the one that was originally planned. And we were able to extend the K-5 day from 8 to 11:30 beginning January 19th, that will adjust to 8 to 12. So we were able to extend each day by 30 minutes. And this decision is directly impacted by the way our transportation is set up within the city. We share buses within between the schools. So the elementary schools share buses with a secondary school. For instance, Hugh Mercer and JM share buses, and Hugh Mercer and Lafayette and Walker Grant. So each bus route takes approximately an hour and a half to run. And now with COVID and the health and safety precautions and protocols that we put in place, there also has to be a sanitation period in between each of these routes. So the protocols that we have in place to keep the children and the bus drivers safe on the way to school and on the way home from school is adding additional time. Therefore, this is the most efficient way we can keep kids in school and allow our pre-K 12 students to receive the in-person instruction, because we certainly think it's important for all of them to receive that. So transportation is the driving force between in regards to this decision with the shortened days. In regards to the third part of the question with transportation and changing that, please just let your child's teacher know, and they will contact our guidance counselors, which will in turn get your transportation updated and changed. Just allow us 24 to 48 hours for that change to go into effect so we can ensure that the bus route and bus driver has been updated. Mrs. Fry, would you be able to help with that last question?
Certainly, Ms. Wheeler. So all students were completing science and social studies work through reading and math in the first semester. However, in the second semester, a core button which obtains science and social studies work will be added to the Canvas page so that your students will be able to go on and submit work and complete work on the Canvas page under the core button. So that will be added, and as of January 19th, that will be there, and you will be able to see your students actually submit the work there.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler and Ms. Fry, for that answer. Question number 13. Is there soap available at the bathrooms at all times? When I volunteered the last 2 years, there was soap available very rarely. It was available in the classrooms, but that means the students contaminated the doors prior to washing their hands, and students often didn't wash once they arrived back in the classrooms. As a registered nurse, this is a concern. Ms. Dove, could you help us with question 13?
Sure, thank you. Our bathrooms are always stocked with soap, and especially now during this time, custodians are regularly checking and sanitizing the facilities and refilling any supplies, specifically soap. So anytime anyone sees that they're short on that, a custodian would be happy to refill that.
Thank you, Ms. Dove. Question 14. How are schools working with this pandemic? Are they doing everything to keep our children safe? Are they paying attention about masks inside or around the school? Ms. Diggs, could you help us with this one?
I certainly will. Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Please know that safety is a priority for us in the division. We continue to follow the guidance, the protocol, and all safety measures, including reinforcing our face covering processes and practices. social distancing. We, of course, in our buildings, we have the floor stickers, excellent reinforcement for our students as far as making sure that they recognize what is appropriate as far as maintaining that safe distance. And of course, our hallway hand sanitizer station. So to answer the question, certainly safety is number one for us, and we do all that we can to consistently follow those processes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Diggs. Number 15. Recently, I have observed pictures on the Hugh Mercer Elementary School Facebook account that show children in classrooms with improperly fitted masks. Only mouth was covered, not nose. During the last town hall, Mr. Wishart responded that mask non-compliance is not a discipline issue. What measures are you taking to ensure that all students are properly wearing masks at all times? The fact that improper use was depicted on Facebook shows that nobody along the way thought that the masks were not on properly, and that concerns me. Mr. Wishart, could you take this one?
Absolutely, Ms. Walsh, thank you. We are following Governor Northam's guidance, which states, and we are requiring face coverings to be worn by all students and staff when it's developmentally appropriate. With that being said, we serve students with varying needs, and we're taking every opportunity to reteach and reshape the practice of wearing masks and distancing in our building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wishart. Question number 16. Last fall, Mike George stated in town hall meetings and school board meetings that a family could change their instruction delivery option after giving the school 2 weeks notice. Is that still going to be the case going forward? I selected a return to school option during the fall, but now with very little time before my student is to return to the building and no concrete plan of what that will look like provided to families, I'm worried I may need to change my selection. Mr. Solinsky, could you help us with this one?
Yes, ma'am. That would be an emphatic yes. You will definitely be able to change your choice of instructional delivery for your child. And as a school division, we will continue to be extremely flexible with regards to your child's education.
Thank you, Mr. Solinsky. Question number 17. Will synchronous instruction continue to be optional? Mr. Ventura, could you answer that one for us?
It would be my pleasure. In attempts to improve our instructional model in semester 2, we as a school division are moving forward to create more of those synchronized sessions to maximize instructional time. And we are requiring students to log in, be expected to be attentive during those synchronous times, also with the expectation that there would be the asynchronous work time on Wednesday as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ventura. Question number 18. If synchronous distance learning will be occurring at the same time as face-to-face learning, will students in person be using iPads during in-class time? Ms. Fry, could you help us with this?
Yes, I can, Ms. Walsh. Students in person will be using iPads during class time. However, students have always used technology during school and during class time. The only difference is now we have the opportunity and ability to have students take their devices home and bring them back. So that's the only difference.
Thank you, Ms. Fry. Question 19. How will recess movement be incorporated in the elementary school day during face-to-face instruction? Ms. Wheeler.
Yes, so at the pre-K 5 grade span, we have incorporated movement breaks throughout the day. So they are clearly identified on their schedule each day. So children will be able to get up and move to ensure that they are not just sitting for 4 hours straight. So we have incorporated those movement breaks throughout the day.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler, for that answer. Question number 20. How will social distancing be maintained with bathrooms? Will there be limits on the number of students in at a time? And how will this be monitored? Mr. Solinsky?
Yes, ma'am. We currently already have protocols in place. One student at a time is allowed in the bathroom. For those other students that are waiting in line, we have poly spots down on the floor, 6 feet apart, so that they can wait in line patiently for their turn to go in the bathroom. And also we have soap and hand sanitizer that are readily available outside of the bathrooms.
Thank you very much. Question 21. Will meals be served during face-to-face instructional days? If so, when and where will they be served? Ms. Keels, could you help us with question 21?
Absolutely. Breakfast will be available to all students upon their arrival to school daily. Also at dismissal time, grab-and-go lunches are available to all students as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Keels. Question 22. Why are there not recorded lectures for every class? Right now, it seems that the majority of the work, I hesitate to call this learning, is in the form of PowerPoint slide decks and question packets. Work should be given out in 2 to 3 day chunks, and the students should be synchronous just as they would be if they were in school. Having teenagers, 10th grade in our case, manage this is not working, as they have no basis for determining what is the best way to tackle the LAP coursework, and there's no accountability to staying on a pace that ends with completion of all tasks. This is not very detailed, just a quick note on how I feel about the fall semester overall. Mr. Schneider, could you help us with this one?
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. I'd be glad to. So first off, I'd like to say that up to this point, today, January 7th, and from the start of the school year, we've worked tirelessly to get feedback, look at what we're seeing. And when I say get feedback, I also mean from as many people as possible, families, students, teachers, staff. And based on that feedback, we try to utilize it and make what's the best decision for our students. So based on the wording of this question and where we are currently, I hope that as of July 4th, we have made that move to some of the things that you are asking of and encouraging us to look at, and that is the synchronous learning. We have moved to where the students are required to be in class and meet with their teachers and getting that instruction from their teachers. So thank you for your feedback. I hope that as of January 4th, you do see a difference and that we all see that difference and go from there in this new approach with the synchronous learning.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Question 23. Since distance learning began, Fredericksburg City Public Schools has maintained that they would not make Zooms mandatory for students because of inequality in resources and home situations. Some James Monroe teachers are now telling students that Zooms are going to be mandatory after the holiday break. My student currently only attends Zooms when they need additional help because the workload for each lap is the maximum of what they can accomplish in the time given. They already work all day, every day, including evenings, weekends, and holidays, to finish on time, so there is no way for them to work harder than they are. What I would like to know is whether or not daily Zooms are going to become mandatory during distance learning, and if so, are the lap workloads going to be significantly decreased to compensate for all of the time lost Zooming? Also, how is the administration accurately gauging how the current workload is impacting students' mental health? Dr. Duffy, would you take this one?
Sure thing, Ms. Walsh, thank you. I'd like to say that this question addresses several very important points. They are how we shifted from asynchronous learning to synchronous learning, how equity factors into that process. And I'll address the last point first is about the workload for students. I want you to know that we are aware of how challenging this situation has been for so many students. And to hear the way many of our students are working, long days and weekends and holidays, it's troubling and it's not appropriate. And so we are working on ways to improve our instructional model. So one of the most important shifts we've made in our instructional model is to shift away from purely asynchronous learning to synchronous learning. And we have shared information about that in December as we were rolling out this new plan for the second semester in our newsletters on the webpage. I know that both Mrs. Hendricks and I have shared information about the so-called skinny lapse, that as we have students attending school in a more regular way, that they are spending more time either in a virtual class meeting or an in-person class meeting at the same time, that work that they do outside of that class time has to be reduced. And so we reduce the number of assignments that students are doing in their learning activity plans in those Canvas modules. And we've also established rules of thumb for teachers that they should not be assigning more than 25 minutes of work outside of each class meeting. So that would be 50 minutes for the week. And of course, we will have many classes that will not assign any work outside of the class meetings. Exceptions to those practices will be made for advanced classes, such as AP, IB, and dual enrollment classes. They do require more reading and writing that needs to take place outside of class meetings. But again, I want to say that this question does recognize some of the key shifts we've made. And one of those is related to equity. When we first rolled out our instructional model, we knew that there were lots of families that would not have consistent access to Wi-Fi. But we feel, we know as of second semester, we have distributed many hotspots. We implemented different kinds of Wi-Fi technology into neighborhoods so that we believe and we know that students will be able to access those class meetings virtually on a consistent basis.
Thank you, Dr. Duffy, for all of the detail you provided in that question. This does conclude our elementary and secondary schools community town hall. I do want to express a sincere thank you to everyone who submitted questions and to the panelists for candidly answering them. On behalf of the school administrative teams and central office, I also want to thank everyone who's tuned in tonight to watch this town hall. We look forward to continuing our collaboration together with you in order to improve student instruction safely. Thank you.